February 17th, and I'm going to call the Neighborhood Advisory Board to order. And the first order of business is the roll call.
Yes, ma'am. Barbara Murray,
Here.
Joyce Staten, Ann Homsey,
Here.
Ann Maxwell,
Here.
Vicki Whitehurst,
Here.
Elise Rowan,
Here.
Sharon Stang,
Here.
Belinda Nolan, Addison Cox, Susan Mercer. Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Wonderful. Such dedicated people. Thank you for attending. The next order is the approval of the agenda. I hope all of you open that up. Do we have anyone that wants to make a change?
No.
Can I have a, what do you call it, a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll approve the minutes. I mean, no, the agenda.
Sharon? What?
I'm approving the agenda. Are you doing minutes or agenda?
Agenda.
Yeah, I'll approve the agenda.
Oh, okay. And do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, well, two different people. Okay. And we have to do roll call for this, Tony?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Any kind of vote, we just need to do a roll call. So Barbara Murray,
Yes.
Ann Homsey,
Yes.
Ann Maxwell,
Yes.
Vicki Whitehurst,
Yes.
Elise Rowan,
Yes.
Sharon Stang.
Yes,
Madam Chair, the motion is passed unanimously.
Wonderful. Okay, next item is the approval of the January 20th, 2022 minutes. And I guess the first thing I have to ask, is there any corrections?
No, not to my knowledge.
Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, thank you, Vicki. Do I have a second?
Second.
who seconded?
Barbara?
Murray.
Barbara, okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll do the roll call.
Yes, ma'am. Barbara Murray,
Yes.
Ann Homsey,
Yes.
Ann Maxwell,
Yes.
Vicki Whitehurst,
Yes.
Elise Rowan,
Yes.
Sharon Stang.
Yes,
Madam Chair, the minutes have been approved unanimously.
Wonderful.
I'd just like to
Okay.
say thank you to Sharon also for doing the minutes for us.
Oh, yes,
You're
they're
welcome.
excellent. Thank you.
He's always doing a wonderful job.
This is one advantage of doing the Zoom meeting, because Sharon wouldn't come into one if it was in person at this point. So it's good we still have her on board.
Madam Chair, Ann, may I ask, would you mind if we went ahead and changed the record to show that Susan Mercer is here?
Oh, yeah, that would be fine.
Yes, I apologize for being late.
That's okay.
You're here, yay.
Yeah, so we've already approved the agenda, approved the minutes, done the roll call, and we're moving on to new business, and I'll leave Tony to maybe introduce Lisa and
Okay.
Elia.
We have Lisa Kirby and Eliud DeJesus with us tonight, and their topic, or the topic that you've requested they talk about, is greenways and neighborhood trails.
I think Tony froze up for a second, so we'll just go ahead and jump in. Thank you for having us tonight.
I will leave it up to Lisa and Eliud.
Thank you. Thanks for having us tonight, and I apologize for not being able to make it last month. I had some emergency dental work. Unfortunately, I would have rather been here, certainly. So I'm going to turn it over to Elliot. He's going to do a short presentation on some of the plans or the primary plan that we have in Greenville for greenways and trails, as well as bike facilities. It's our active transportation plan. So he'll run through that and how that's utilized, and then we'll be available for any questions that you might have after. Okay?
Yes, thank you.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
yes,
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Elliot DeJesus. I'm going over the presentation for the Active Transportation Master Plan. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
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 Okay, perfect. So this this is the long range plan that it was just going to the background, adopted in 2017, and then by the city of Greenville City Council. And this later on was updated with concurrently with another long range transportation plan in 2019. The plan serves as the active transportation plan for not just Greenville, also the surrounding municipalities within the Greenville metropolitan urban area. So it covers some areas of Pitt County as well. The plan is an update to our 2011 bicycle and pedestrian master plan. So it has all the non-vehicular planning or vision for Greenville. If you have any questions along the presentation, please let me know. I will be happy to answer them. Just showing the goals of the plan. This plan was highly important for our area, since out of all the facility types on transportation, this one impacts beyond movement. It also impacts the economy of the city. And the plan it was built on outlining the vision statements and key themes from local plans and guidelines that we have established by then. And we also merged this with the Federal Highway Administration's guidebook for pedestrian and bicycle performance measure. So the goals that you're seeing here are the ones that were used to select and analyze the plan's the network and the plan's recommendation. So basically, the plan, what it has is a compilation of all the bicycle greenways network map and recommendations, and sidewalk greenway network map recommendations. The way that we gather and we created those recommendations were a mix of local public input. We did surveys. We went out there. We got actually hundreds of responses. We combined this with the system condition analysis. So basically, we pulled demographics, equity, bike ped, crashes, locations. We identify high injury networks. We identify high levels of stress for bicycling, and we gathered all that information and created the maps that are in the plan and the recommendations with them. And that includes the facility types, the types of separation from the roadway as it pertains to crashes and stress. So out of this plan, out of these maps, we created 28 project cut sheets, and they cover all the modes in terms of the non-highway modes. So sidewalk, bikeways, greenways, shared use paths, and we created those cut sheets that explains the project, seems the limitations, some estimation of how much it's going to cost, so it could be used later on for submitting for programming. I will say keep among the information that we had is that it covers the city of Greenville locally maintained roads, DOT roads. It covers all the area. The criteria, the selection process was not just based on the local input. It was actually through a rank and weighted prioritization based on key components of the goals that we just saw on the third slide. And out of making that criteria, that's how we ended up with those 28 projects that were later on more developed by the consultant. Then the next stage was implementation. So we got all these project cut sheets and recommendations, and we then submitted through the state's prioritization process. And mostly they are submitted through the state's prioritization process. That is the system in place for statewide programming funding opportunity. So we have, it is a document that identifies projects, schedule funding, and it also includes beyond greenways and bike ped facilities, includes all the transportation types of improvements. So ferries, airports, highway, public transportation. They all compete for funding. And once we actually get the scoring, high score, and get secure the funding, we are able to actually be added to the STIP. The project also, once it gets a high score, it comes back to the local MPO and is reviewed by the city and the jurisdictions, and then they assess what will be the highest priority among the projects. And they once we select them and we get again submit to the NCDOT STI process, then that's how we get finally the final list of projects. And so basically this shows the simplified version of the connection of this plan, how this plan directs our selection, then how we submit it, and then how we secure the funds to finally have these types of facilities that we really would like. And these are for example, that's how we secure funding for the Green Mill Run, phase 2, phase 1. That's how we got South River Greenways, and so on. And finally, as resources, we recently developed the mapping tool with all the bicycle and pedestrian facilities that were part of the inventory and the proposed. So you could actually click this hyperlink and it will send you to that mapping tool. You could click on and click off the bicycle and pedestrian facilities. I recommend to go to the plan that is in the following link, the link below, as it has the explanation of what type of facilities they are symbolized in the map. And I could show briefly how it looks. Let me see.
And will we have the opportunity, will you be sending the PowerPoint with the links?
Yes, I will.
Great.
I was going to say, we can provide those to you, Tony, if you could distribute them for us. Okay.
So this is the map. Can you see my sharing screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So this is the map. It's interactive. You could click. You could click the facility. You could see the roads. You could turn off some of the layers, and you could actually see what we have proposed and what we have existing. And that is not just the city of Greenville that has all the MPO in it.
And that would be very helpful to have.
Would that include improvements on NCDOT things? Because I'm always talking about 10th and 14th Street and sidewalks. Would this include what the state is considering?
Yes, because this plan is it is the plan that we use to submit those recommendations to the state. So when the state is reviewing whether or not a project should have sidewalks, they rely on us having it in an adopted plan, a long-range plan, and this active transportation plan and our metropolitan transportation plan, both of them qualify as such. So this, when we are requesting funds for sidewalks along 14th Street, we rely on this plan to show us, yes, it was adopted, that we are aware of, we need those type of facilities. Which type of facilities are we looking for? Are we looking for just a sidewalk with a sharrow? Are we looking, that's just a strip of marking on the road? Or are we looking for a bicycle lane, a protected bicycle lane? So all this information is stored in the plan, and it guides the submittal when we are asking for improvements.
All right. Well, thank you, Elliot. So Elliot and I are both, available for any questions you might have about the plan, or how projects are prioritized. We're happy to answer anything. So if you have any questions, let us know.
A question.
I'm sorry, I need to.
Yeah, I have a question. regarding, and I saw on your map, the dotted line, of course, it was dotted pink, so I'm not sure what pink meant, but we have been told by the state for a number of years, perhaps even a decade, that sidewalks along Evans Street are planned, but they've never happened. And we've talked about the dangers of Evans Street and how much pedestrian traffic there is along Evans Street. And we read in the paper this week of a man who was killed. Of course, he was crossing Evans Street, but obviously maybe a crosswalk is a thing there. But the fact remains is there are no sidewalks. And we have a tremendous number of people that walk, particularly from the Moywood area. I think that's
Moywood.
Yes, down Evans Street to the shopping areas, Target and that type thing. The paths are worn in the ground, but there are a couple of places, and there are places that are near our neighborhood that there are guardrails that are very close to a ditch, and you cannot walk behind one of them in particular. You must walk out into the street, which is not safe for anybody at any time. And so I just want to know where that stands. I mean, yes, it was not someone walking along the street, but it was foot traffic on Evans Street. And now one man's been killed. How many does that take before something's done?
So a couple of different points related to that issue. One is that DOT does have a project identified for Evans Street. It only goes from Red Banks, though, out through Winterville. So it does not address the area that you're specifically referring to. As part of that project, they do have sidewalks planned. I do know that all of their projects have been pushed back because of funding issues. So I don't know specifically when the Evans Street project will take place. Elliot might be able to tell you when it's planned to take place.
I want to submit that Evans Street from Red Banks, at least to Greenville Boulevard, already has a sidewalk from Red Banks south to Greenville Boulevard on the west side. It is the section from Red Banks back to like 14th Street that has no sidewalk, that is so dangerous and is so heavily trafficked.
Right.
Not only have we got a lot of pedestrians in that area, you got a high school and I have seen kids riding skateboards down the middle of Evans Street going to school. The fact that we have no sidewalks leading up to one of the area, high schools is just unconscionable to me.
Right. So they'll actually, as part of that project, though, they'll continue the sidewalk beyond Greenville Boulevard. So it's their sidewalk envisioned from Red Banks all the way out past Winterville. As far as from 14th Street to Red Banks, Elliot, I don't know if is there a project identified?
Yeah, I could, that's some of the research we have. Just when I was showing the slides, the projects that we have, we submit not just bike path projects, we submit highway projects to get these improvements that DOT has as projects. All the projects, or most of the projects that we have within the MPO, has always requested bicycle and pedestrian facilities with them. We have increased at least the amount of submitted projects for bike path. That segment, the Lisa is referring to, it is set for construction in 2025. But the section that you're referring to in Evans, we actually have an access management project with bicycle and pedestrian facilities, and it's from 5th Street to Red Banks. The project, due to the reprogramming, is being pushed to 2029 and is still being discussed. But we will have more information towards the end of the year, as those projects usually when you have that end is usually are planning projects, so they will be developed right now through these years. They will develop the express design and engineering needed for the project. So there's.
I appreciate the information you're telling me, but has no one done does no one look at these things? I want you to go and watch from Greenville Boulevard south, how much traffic there is, foot traffic on Evans Street. And I would wager to guess not much. And then look from Red Banks North on Evans to 14th Street and how much foot traffic there is there? And the answer is a lot. I mean, you guys have got to do better because this is a really dangerous area. And I say, and there's two places where people have to step out into the street if they're walking. And at any time of the day or night, you can see people walking, particularly on the west side, because that's the side that Moywood is on. I mean, all you have to do is go out there and look at any one of the yards out there. A path is worn through the yard from pedestrians. It's dangerous.
Lisa,
And
may I ask a
29 is not
clarification?
gonna I'm sorry.
Just a clarification question. Is Evans Street, is that a state road or is that a city road?
It's a state
State.
road. Yeah, so we try and encourage and support. We give them all the data that we can. We have pushed them to try and make immediate improvements and find funding in their current budget in order to make improvements at Howell and Evans in order to at least get some safe pedestrian crossings there. But as much as we push, that's all that we can really do from our side of it. But we continue to have active conversations with them. We were actually out on site. I think it was Wednesday evening. Now tonight's Thursday, so it was Tuesday evening. We were out on site after dark to view vehicular traffic as well as pedestrian traffic. We have studied the accidents in that area and provided that information to NCDOT for their use. And I can commit that we continue to work with them to try and make it a priority when it comes down to it. As Elliot presented, there is a strict prioritization process that DOT goes through for these projects. And in particular, I can tell you the area where Greens Mill Run crosses Evans, which is where the guardrail is, and there is not any room to provide facilities behind that guardrail, drives the cost of the project astronomically, because that means that they have to replace that culvert and extend the culvert beyond what it is today in order to be able to provide those facilities on the backside. And anything you have that drives the cost of the project lowers the prioritization score, unfortunately. Now, I know that's not what anyone wants to hear, that it boils down to money. But it's give and take with everything. And like I said, we do our best to encourage DOT. We prioritize on our end, the MPO does on our behalf. And we have extra points that we can put towards a project. And we utilize the points in the best interest of our citizens. So we will continue to push that particular project through. Like we have been and encourage them. But like I said, we are kind of forcing their hand to make some immediate pedestrian improvements around the Howell Evans intersection because of the issues.
Well, of the ones that they were talking about that are further down where the culvert is, it would seem like the solution would be something similar to what's near St. Peter's Green Springs, that pedestrian path that they put on 5th Street. How was that funded?
That was funded through Safe Routes to School. So state funds.
Okay. Is there any chance of
I don't think there are any funds available with Safe Routes, and but the school is right there. J.H. Rose is not far up from there, but I don't think there are any funds available with Safe Routes. Do you know, Elliot?
No, not that we are aware.
Okay.
We have been on the lookout of bike ped standalone funding. The challenge, of course, when you're submitting to state's prioritization processes, these projects are mainly highway projects that we are using them to add bike ped components. So they are driven by that of congestion. So if there's congestion on them, they score higher. That's why we got that project that is down south that connects Winterville with Greenville, a higher one, because you have just 2 lanes compared to where the crash happened. And basically how we have handled that is as Lisa says, we have our own methodology that was adopted by the MPO of selecting the projects. we score projects not based on the congestion. We are selecting them based on the safety. So we put the safety first, and then we start ranking them. And we don't have enough points. We are not allocating enough points for all the projects. So that's why we had to create that methodology. So those projects with high bike ped crashes are always the ones that always get the local points. But at the end, they go back to the state, and then they rank them based on the congestion. And we are competing beyond the MPO area. We are competing division level. So that covers New Bern, the city of New Bern projects. And then there's another category of funding that is regional. We're competing even with Wilmington. So if projects that have more congestion in Wilmington, they might score higher and they might be in the step first than ours. So we have always tried to understand that and find other ways. The plan is that first base that it could be used to get other funding sources.
Now, the 28 projects you mentioned over 10 years, is that somewhere in your PowerPoint that we can see the prioritized projects or in those maps?
The plan has the 28 projects, and they're not specifically to be done in the next 10 years. They are the projects that following the criteria. And this is, I could share my screen again.
I think in the 10 projects that or 10 years you were referring to was associated with the STIP, which is the state plan.
So the 28 projects were related to based on the scoring of how close they are from land uses that are more they are basically like pedestrian shed, and they attract pedestrian movement. So based on these particular land uses or areas that we are aware there are problems, and equity challenges, lack of car households. Those are the criteria that were used to then select these projects.
Right. Go to slide 7, Elliot, because that's where I think.
Yes, this is where the 10-year is. Yeah. So this identifies construction funding and schedule for projects. That means all the projects. We're talking from airports to ferries, highway projects, bike path projects, and they are in this document that DOT updates monthly.
And it doesn't sound like there's a lot of room for, well, you said you did public input. You asked to get public input to do this document. And therefore, at this point, does the public really have a way of pushing something that isn't in the plan, or pushing one thing higher than the other? Or is it all really at the state now?
No, we have our own, people could reach out to either the jurisdictions or to the MPO directly and make a comment. If we have, remember the prioritization process, we skip over that process, but basically the prioritization process, if I could briefly go over, we have 17 slots per mode. I use all the 17 slots for bike path projects. My highway projects, most of them have bike path improvements. So I submit all 17 per mode. And then we get back the scoring when they score the benefit cost, the crash, the traffic, all those numbers are into play that's how we got the scoring. So when we compare the scoring, we have to decide which projects are most likely to get funded. And then from those projects that are likely to get funded, then we will select the projects that are bringing the safest impact, like the impacts that will create a safer network. During those process, we have public input. Since we got the scoring, when we discuss with the jurisdictions, there's a public opening that we submit. We advertise that we have comments. It's in our website, and our meetings are open to the public, and they could provide comments. Sometimes projects that are in the plan, the priorities changes throughout the year. So sometimes there are projects that are time sensitive. And sometimes we have been able to actually allocate points to a project that, based on the system that we have, it was not based on that in 2017, for example, 2019, it didn't have too much of the problems that right now it has. So sometimes we could actually get that, and some jurisdiction could actually propose to assign points to that project. So we have a method or a system that is flexible and could address any project that it was not gathering the plan. We are also gathering comments. We have received comments from the Multimodal Commission that provide us feedback on this document, as it is actually, we try to treat it as a living document. So we have been keeping the log of which are the new changes, and we are working towards an update always.
I was going to introduce to the rest of the board something that AARP has called a walk audit toolkit that you could have a leader, and there's some wonderful little worksheets that go with it. Is there anything that, say, a neighborhood might be able to, put together a survey using their model and letting you know what are the concerns of that neighborhood as far as accessibility to ride their bikes or things like that, or walk?
Yes, definitely. We have there's a whole section within the plan actually of all the crossings that are concerning, or the sections that are unsafe, and we could definitely start gathering that information and not just use it in the next update. If let's say, for example, we have Evans Street project it is in the step, so the project is being developed and there will be conversations of their design. If we have that information, we will use the information that we have, not in the plan, but that is recently, and we could use that to actually make changes to the project.
Okay.
May I say something, Ann?
Yes, certainly. I don't know who's talking, but fine.
Going back to the Evans Street project, I think that is something that is really scary to me. And the fact that it has been pushed back to 2029 seems particularly bad. And Thomas Taft is the representative from our area on the North Carolina Transportation Board. So I feel like we need to put some pressure on him to do more. And also, this is very much a legislative issue, because the money that the Transportation Board has been decreased because of the amount of gas taxes, et cetera. But the legislature had enough money. They wanted to give a tax refund. They could be putting money into the transportation fund so that these projects wouldn't have to be pushed back to 2029. But that would mean that we have to get involved with our legislators and push these issues, that we want these projects, these transportation projects, to be done. And we just have to be loud, because squeaky wheel gets the grease. I mean, I know the procedure that you're talking about, but we can also, if we work hard politically, we can make a difference.
We have any other? Oh, you done, Ann? I'm sorry.
Well, so if anybody knows Thomas Taft, they need to call.
Okay, is there any other questions for our presenters tonight?
I have a question.
Sure, yeah.
On the agenda, it mentioned neighborhood trails, and I didn't hear anybody speak about that.
True, yes.
So in our plans, we don't designate greenways different from neighborhood trails. So when you look at the link, when you look at the map, there will be greenways that connect neighborhoods. And that's the goal, is to provide a different mode of transportation for our citizens to some of these bigger locations or facilities. So that's why when you look at the active transportation plan and you look at the prioritization, a lot of it is access driven and safety driven. And that's how we provide our prioritization. And so what you'll see when you start to look at some of those projects is they are in fact neighborhood trails connecting neighborhoods to schools or to recreation facilities, those kind of things. So
Lisa, I'm going to ask a specific question from my neighborhood, which is College Court. Wright Road and all. And on the next side, we have another board member in Colonial Heights. And if you have a bicycle or you're walking, traditionally you would stay off of other property. But for us, for where I am, I could either cut through along the creek that goes behind J.C. Park and Eastern, or I have to walk all the way down to Cedar and all the way down the other. And I was wondering, I mean, how would we address the idea of putting a path so part of Colonial Heights and all of College Court could just take off from South Wright and walk probably a quarter of the distance to get
Right.
recreational areas, but I don't know how to address that.
So the way to address it would be through the public comment period when we update the plan. But like Elliot said, if there are specific locations like that, certainly reach out to the MPO or to the Multimodal Transportation Commission, because Elliot can hold that kind of data in his back pocket. And if we have the opportunity to offer alternative projects or modify existing projects, sometimes he has the opportunity to do that, but he needs the information from the community in order
Okay, so
to.
you're saying MPO, I know the multimodal, that's the old bicycle pedestrian
Mhm.
commission. What's
Correct.
MPO?
That would be Elliot. You would send him
Oh.
to.
Okay,
So Chad Carwine is the chair right now of the multimodal, isn't he?
Yes.
okay. Yeah, I've talked to people in our neighborhood and they said, we talk about making your own path.
Mhm.
There's a well-worn path to get a shortcut over that direction.
Right.
Are there, what?
You can be in our
what
neighborhood
is-
and just walk down the middle of Evan Street. That's what we do.
What neighborhood trails or greenways, what is being done at the present moment? What project?
South Tar River Greenway I think it's phase 3 at this point, is the one that's currently under construction. And we're having delays with the railroad, unfortunately, but will be done soon, hopefully. And then the build project is 7 different components to improve bicycle pedestrian access. And as part of the build, 2 of the components are the Millennial Connector, and then the Town Common Connector are 2 devoted, I guess, greenway paths, like the 10-foot multi-use path. And all the other projects are improving right-of-way to allow for bikes and pedestrian facilities.
What is the Millennial one? Where is that?
That is between Dickinson, Ficklin, and 10th Street. So it connects it to the 10th Street corridor.
That's an old railroad spur, correct?
Correct. Yeah, so we're trying to do a rails to trails process there.
And does that have its own funding in some ways from?
It does. It was a federal grant. It used to be known as the Tiger Grant, and now it's called the Build Grant.
Well, I
So it's
must say
actually-
that you guys look like you're looking everywhere to find money.
We try. We're doing our best. Yes, ma'am. So the U.S. This is actually funded through the U.S. DOT.
Okay, that's good. Well, we've taken some time here with your time. Any other questions from the NAB board members? Yes, Susan?
Just a quick question. Do you know if there's any plans to extend the sidewalks on 10th Street where approximately Lowe's is going toward the Grimesland direction?
Trying to think where out, yes, out towards town. Ellie, do you want to talk about the 10th Street corridor project?
And one other question about 10th Street, more close in toward the university, there's patches of the sidewalk. There'd be a sidewalk and then there's no sidewalk, and then there's a little bit of sidewalk.
My neighborhood can't get out onto 10th Street except walking through brush and things like that a lot of times.
Right, right. So Elliot, where does the access management project, safety project on 10th Street corridor, where does that go from? What are the limits of that project?
The limits are from Evans Street all the way to Oxford Road.
Okay.
But in our plans, we do have proposed sidewalks along 10th Street that connects to all the way to the new park. East Side Park is the name.
That where they, yes, out by the cemetery at
Yes.
Portertown.
And when you say sidewalks, are we talking both sides? 'Cause
Typically, that's how we
10th Street-
handle.
That makes
Right.
sense.
On a major thoroughfare, that is typically how we handle it. Now, I can't speak to 10th Street specifically because I haven't looked at the plans, to be honest, but that is typical on a
Mhm.
corridor project like that.
When will that be finished?
That one got pushed back as well. Do you know, Elliot?
Yeah,
And the reason, I don't know if you guys, how much you frequent that corridor, but the city was just recently out there within the last year and put in the crosswalks there. And we're actually looking at trying to make more modifications out there. That was all in an effort, because DOT pushed the funding back. The city found the funds and said, well, we'll take it upon ourselves and try and make some improvements here for the safety of our citizens. It certainly is not a perfect solution, but we were trying to make it better than what it was, at least.
Yeah,
Is
those are
better.
those ones near Food Lion and Olive,
Correct.
those crossing, yeah.
Right.
and the project is it was pushed just like Evans. The problem of course you might have seen the news of the DOT has been handling some financial problems before the pandemic when the hurricanes happened, the
Exactly.
snowstorms. So they had a lot of challenges before. And the reason of these numbers are so high is because our federal government requires them to be fiscal constrained. So they could not have the funds. They have to show up how much funds they have. And those funds have to match what is in that document, the STIP. So if those documents do not match up, they are not in federal compliance. So that's why they have pushed those years just to make sure that they are estimating. These are basically estimations.
I read in the news, they gave some idea of what is the next project and how far out others are. What is the next project? I forgot. The next one.
And you mean within the city of Greenville?
Yeah,
Dickinson Avenue, I believe.
Dickinson,
Yes.
that's right.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that will shortly be followed up. I think the next one is Allen Road.
Either Allen Road or Evans with bicycle and pedestrian facilities. It will be the first bicycle and pedestrian facility built that connects Winterville with Greenville.
Yeah.
So we're happy about it.
Okay. Last call for any other questions or comments?
Lisa, definitely, I will disperse this information to the board. So I'm sorry, my audio was off when you asked that question, but yes, I'll be glad to send this out to everybody on the board.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you
well,
all for coming
We
in.
appreciate you guys coming in and giving us all this information.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, thank you very much.
Great
You're
discussion.
welcome. Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you.
You too.
Oh, now I see MPO. Okay. He is the MPO. Okay. Well, I guess the next thing on the agenda, is there anything we want to discuss any further after they left the forum here? Okay.
I'm beyond disappointed that the state doesn't see fit to provide the half a mile or 3/4 of a mile of sidewalk, and don't think it's important and have pushed it back a decade.
Yeah.
It's already been a decade, so I'm really aggravated.
Yeah, I can't say that the city, though, hasn't studied a lot of things. It looks like what they put together then is modified by the state based on their, he was mentioning congestion. If it's not congested, it gets a lower score. And I never realized that they compete with airports and everything else.
This section of Evans Street meets all the criteria on their list, though. It's access to recreation facilities, to schools. It's congested. It's, and I heard them talk about a project where the city stepped in and did some kind of temporary stuff because of a safety issue. Where have they been for the last 10 years when we've been trying to get this sidewalk put in because of a safety issue? I finally did get Public Works to at least keep the briars trimmed back behind the guardrails, but it's ridiculous when we got this major roadway with a gap of sidewalk that's a mile long. It's crazy.
Well, Elise, a thought I have is that every year the council has a legislative agenda that they present to our legislators for things that the city wants to have done. And I'm wondering why we couldn't, as a board, ask the council to please put this section of Evans Street on their legislative agenda. Because it really is it is totally ludicrous to be talking about 2029.
I agree.
Yeah. And
Well,
I know,
think it's ludicrous to be talking about providing sidewalks from Greenville Boulevard south to Winterville. Nobody walks there.
Thank you. That's why when they said that, I'm like, really?
Yeah, nobody walks there.
I mean, there's nothing really there to walk to.
No. I mean, I guess there's the Best Buy shopping center, but nobody's going to cross Greenville Boulevard on foot.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's crazy. I just don't see how they can possibly put that in front of it. And what's so aggravating to me is I have been told by the DOT time and time again, oh yeah, that's going to happen in the next 18 months. That's going to happen. I mean, for probably 8 to 10 years, we've been told that, and it's, and nothing has happened. So
is there any chance that just a pedestrian bridge over that one culvert will at least be one step in the right direction? If you,
well, it would keep people from having to walk into the street.
right.
Yeah. I mean, that would certainly help. I mean, it still has people walking in the grass, but at least it keeps them from not having to walk in the street, because they literally do have to walk into the street now.
Well,
So,
There is one positive I will say, and I know all this is just horrible. I've been working with sidewalks for 10 years myself. And the one thing that I have learned is that as they're building new projects, sidewalks are required to go in. To retrofit a sidewalk into a road like Evans, and I'm just saying it's horribly expensive to retrofit the city for sidewalks. They should have been put in to begin with,
yeah, which is unbelievable that they didn't. Yes,
yeah,
I agree.
Back then, Greenville was so car centric, nobody would have even thought about walking from here to there.
Well, that's not true, because I sat out there with my son, who at the time was about 4 or 5, and watched them widen Evans Street. We watched for months, and because he was fascinated. And the pedestrian traffic then was just as heavy as it is now, because it wasn't a Target that was there then, but it was Kroger, and it was the closest grocery store. And there's always been pedestrian traffic up and down this section.
yeah.
It just is a fact.
okay.
Now, the housing that you keep referring to as Moywood is not called that, I don't think, is it?
Yeah, I
Good town.
think
Moywood
It's
is down
Kennedy
by,
Circle.
what
And
is
then
it?
Kennedy Circle.
Oh,
Kennedy Circle, is that?
Kennedy Circle.
It's the
Kearney
whatever
Park.
it is on Evans Street. I can't
Kearney
think.
Park.
Kearney Park.
Kearney
Thank
Park.
you.
Oh,
That's it. Thank
okay.
you,
Yeah,
Megan.
okay, Kearney
Yeah,
Park.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I just thought you might get someone confused when you refer to
Yeah, I
Moywood,
knew
because
that
that's
wasn't
somewhere else.
right, but I couldn't think of what it was. Thank you so much, Amy.
Okay, well, we'll go on now to the neighborhood updates. I don't think each of us has to say something. It was just last month, but I'll start, and then I'll just take other people who would like to add anything. My neighborhood's done a good job of sending out, I think I told you last time, a very nice hand-delivered colored picture of the neighborhood with some information, what we did to encourage people to join up. I don't know how many have, but a lot have. And we each got an email back from our treasurer, which I had never done myself. So I thought that was nice. And I sent a suggestion to her the other day that I saw I don't know if it was on Nextdoor or Facebook. It was a man in California, maybe, and he's been cooped up like everyone else during COVID. And his wife said, you got to get out there and meet people and do something now that things are a little open. And so he put up a sign saying, my wife thinks I'm weird. You can come and have a pancake breakfast in my front yard. He set up something and the neighbors loved it. They had about 100 people come. He set up some grill outside and then everyone liked it so much. They set up a second time and hundreds of people came bringing coffee and coffee cakes and whatever. And the neighbors, for those of you who aren't in a massive neighborhood, it just sounds like a fun thing to do. Put an extension cord, some griddles outside, and see if your neighbors will show up for something like that. So I thought it was cute. We'll see if my neighborhood group wants to do something like that. Okay, anyone else have something they want to add about their neighborhood or an idea to bring people together? Yes.
I just had one quick thing. Because our neighborhood hasn't done anything since the last time I reported, but Devinder Culver with the city asked me to be on the committee for National Night Out.
Oh.
Which will be in the summer. And so I'm working with the police department on the planning for that. So if you guys have any ideas of, what your neighbors would participate in, if it looked like this or acted like this, our neighbors would participate in, I'd love to hear that because I can take that back to that committee.
Okay. Okay, I'll look up at the screen again. Do we have anyone else? Okay, we'll have our dinner here pretty soon. Is there anyone on the Zoom that wants to do a public comment? We don't have any guests, do we, Tony? No. Okay, he may be off. Number 8 is announcements. Well, you basically, Elise just gave us an announcement. Are there any other announcements?
I want to ask, has anybody else been contacted by the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services about the masks that they were sending out?
The mask?
Yes. Those
I received mine, but the first one somehow was not received. They claimed it was delivered and I talked to the post office and then I went through the USPS online and filed and said it was missing and they just automatically sent me another one. Is that what you're talking about? The free?
Well, actually, no, I actually had, they were saying any organization that needed masks, they could order the masks. So I did for the Oakdale neighborhood. Well, I wound up giving 2 cases away today to, it's like a faith-based organization that have healthcare workers that are retired that are trying to help, in their neighborhoods. So I gave my cases away because I got, the matter of fact, after I ordered it and it was on its way, out comes an email saying, don't, take these masks from people that may come to your house knocking on your door because they're going to probably give you these masks. You're going to put them on and then you're going to faint and they're going to rob you and all this other stuff.
Oh, gosh.
So, I had gotten 5 cases of it. I really had. Been really good masks because I've been wearing mine. I have not fainted. And so, I mean, I gave some to my church, and some of the neighbors that knew me and have known me for years, they got theirs. And so I have 1 case left, I mean, I'm just not going to people's houses. I mean, my intentions were great for my neighborhood. I felt, especially we're in that group that, more prone. And, I hate that for our neighborhood that couldn't happen because.
Well, that was a great initiative that you took to do that. Yeah, it's hard to, you have to heed people's warnings sometimes, even if there isn't a danger there. But once you hear it, you can't forget that.
Right, that's right.
Yeah. Anyone else with an announcement? Okay. Our next meeting is March the 17th. I don't know that we really have anything to put on the agenda at this point. I know our last meeting, we talked about working with public relations and, coming up with some ideas for the city of Greenville to put out. But that our initiative is really to get more neighborhood associations formed. And I don't know how we do that with the restrictions still upon us. Anyone?
I would like to put on the agenda for March 17th is to give information about the Earth Day celebration that's being planned in Pitt County.
Okay, and that's April something.
Right.
And I
April
have
20th.
some information. I asked my daughter for some information because that's her field. So I'll try to get that to you.
Is that, Ann, is that the one at the Trevathan Farm you're talking?
Yes,
about? Okay, we're, I think, trying to route our youth group there.
yes.
Yeah.
By the March meeting, I will be able to share all of the different activities that are being planned for that day and give you more information.
Well, that's great. I still wanted to go back to, is there anything, a subcommittee or something like that might put together something in PR for the city to put out, or are we just not ready for that yet until we meet in person? I don't see anyone jumping, so we'll table that.
I just think it'd be easier to do in person.
I think so too. I know there was a photograph already taken. The city did come out and take one of Addison's family. So we have kind of a young family, a young face, which can be used in something, but we have to have a short, catchy, thing to go with it, to attract people's attention, and they could put it out.
Well, that's something that maybe Tony could do for us.
Well, I think
just if you've already got a picture, I'd hate for you not to go ahead and do something. And he could, I think even if it's just a short thing, telling what we're about, it puts our name out there.
Yeah.
And then we do more later.
Yeah. Well, Tony, are you on? See, somehow Tony's not with us. Hey. It's being videotaped though. I keep forgetting that we have that videotape going at the same time. So
I want to say something.
Yes, please do.
Every time Tony sends us some information, like the last thing was about the senior games, and I always go on my Nextdoor app and say, as representative, as board member on the NAB, I'd like to share this information. And then I put down about whatever Tony sent. So I try to plug NAB that we're trying to give out.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Instead of just sharing it, you're actually saying on behalf of NAB.
Yeah,
That's
this
a
is
good
where
idea.
I got this information from, and as your representative on the neighborhood advisory board. So just little ways to sneak it in.
Mm-hmm.
I did send, I forgot to say this, I think Ann Maxwell, I may have sent you a copy of the letter. I sent a letter today to Elizabeth, forgot her last name. Blunt. Okay. And it was related to something we discussed last month, I think, which is the Board of Adjustments notifications for the new Mexican fish restaurant right across from Villa Verde. They had a Board of Adjustments hearing and nobody showed up from the neighborhood. And hi, Tony. And so Tony went back and checked for me and said that the neighbors within 250 feet were there, notified that it was twice in the newspaper. And by the way, Tony, I see you back on. It is the tiniest print. When I try to read the newspaper, the city page, you need a magnification glass. And then they also apparently put it on their city page, but not all of us in every neighborhood association is going to spend their time reading every notification. I thought that we were told by Shantae some year ago or 2 years ago that if it was close to a neighborhood they would try to notify the neighborhood association. So I wrote Elizabeth Blunt today and kind of said, how could that be facilitated? Because Colonial Heights heard nothing. They have 5 properties directly behind that, and they may not have objected at all, but they're mainly rentals. And I still would like to see, I'll let you know next month what her answer is. Tony, you saw my email?
I did see it. I
Yeah.
did see it come through.
But I left it in her park, basically, Elizabeth, to answer me, because I wanted to know who was notified in the neighborhood, because Addison lives like 2 houses further away, and he said none of his neighbors even knew about it.
So what are they doing different than a regular restaurant?
They were going to have outdoor dining in the front. And at first, it looked like they were going to have television outside, but Tony told me later it was a distraction to passerbys on the highway on 10th. And so I think those were going to be removed. But I do know that they have indoor live bands, which is okay, as long as it's indoors and doesn't spill out into the parking lot or run too late. But, I think the neighbors should have at least been able, if they were aware, they might have gone to Board of Adjustments and put some limitations or let the owners know there were some concerns. I'm not thinking that they would have said no to it.
I think that there's a lot that needs to be said. We've got a Board of Adjustments issue 2 doors down from us. And we have to have any information that we would like to present in by Monday at 5 o'clock. Yet the information telling us what this is about will not be available until 4 o'clock this Friday. The letter came out to all of us telling us that there was going to be an issue near us, and we went online and we couldn't find anything.
So you got a letter from the city?
We got a letter from the city on Monday telling us, so literally we'd have a whole week, except that we don't have the information about what the guy wants. And we told Tom Barnett and Shantae yesterday, and now today on the site, it says the information will be available at 4 o'clock on Friday. So how are neighbors supposed to really organize and do anything if you don't get the information until 4 o'clock on a Friday? And then you have to have whatever you want to do about it done by 5 o'clock and presented to the city in writing by 5 o'clock on Monday. So I think there's a whole lot we need to do about Board of Adjustments.
Y'all, I'm listening to you, and I just want to let you know that my connection for some reason is really bad tonight. So if I disappear, I'm going to try to get back on again, but I just wanted to give you a heads up. Okay. Oftentimes I'm hearing you, but you're freezing up visually. So I just want to let you know.
Okay. Well, that is definitely something that I don't know how we could do something maybe, but next month we don't really have a main thing other than Ann talking about Earth Day.
I think we need to talk about this Board of Adjustments issue again. And since we have to be involved with it, I'll see what kind of information I can get from Tom Barnett.
Yeah, because I think it's important to know how it works and then hold them to it, either adjust it if it's not workable or hold them to what's required if they're not doing it. So let's kind of look at that and something about Earth Day, and we will meet March the 17th.
That's St. Patrick's Day. Isn't that St. Patrick's Day?
It is.
Oh, we'll all wear green or a funny hat or something.
Yeah.
Learn the Irish jig. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
May I just add a couple things since I was off for a second?
Oh, that's right, you were.
Yeah, I sent you information, but did everybody get the information about the big read?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Please share that out to the whole community, your churches, everybody. That's pretty important. And did everybody get information about the senior games?
Yes.
Again,
I'm not
that's another one
competitive,
that's really big for the community. It's a community builder. Share that out. And I just got a call. I'm going to send you all some more info. Is this helpful, that information I send like that? Does that?
Yeah, I think so,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. I just got a call today from Rick Cannon. He's been working with a lot of children doing bike rodeos once a year. And he's trying to, last year they had about 50 kids. He's trying to make it more and more diverse and bigger. So I'm going to send you information to share out to your friends, your groups, your church groups, and what have you, to get all these kids. The more kids who learn how to ride a bike early, it's just like swimming, the better off everybody is. So it's a pretty cool thing. All the kids get a free helmet. They learn how to ride through traffic in a parking lot. You know, it's pretty fun for the kids. So I'll send you that information also.
Okay.
Great.
Very good. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, Ann Maxwell, motion second.
Second.
I second.
Okay, we got two people. Take your pick, Sharon. Okay, Tony, I guess we do a roll call.
Yes, ma'am. Barbara Murray,
Yes.
Ann Homsey,
Yes.
Ann Maxwell,
Yes.
Vicky Whitehurst,
Yes.
Elise Rowan,
Yes.
Sharon Stang.
Yes.
Y'all, thank you for a very good night tonight. It was a great meeting. I think Elliot and Lisa did a good job.
Oh, yeah.
And I appreciate everybody coming here. And Madam
You
Chair, you
forgot
are
to call
officially adjourned.
Susan's name.
Oh, Susan,
Yes.
there you go. Now you're adjourned.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank
Okay,
you. If
thanks
I
so
can do
much.
anything for anybody, please give me a call, okay?
Okay, Tony.
Good night.
Good
Good night,
night.
bye.
Everybody.
Bye-bye.